Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of Surprises Worship Anywhere broadcast every week, wherever you are. If you're locally, but you're kind of locked in or shut in at home, or if you are traveling, living anywhere in the world, we are thrilled to be able to gather a global family together, an extended family, to be able to talk about God's Word, hopefully grow in your faith, and take some steps forward in your relationship with God and your expression of that loving relationship. Before we get started, though, please download our app. That's just a great way to track along with these messages. You can take notes, you can download discussion questions. You can also get involved, whether you're local or at a distance at Surprise. As our extended family grows, we are trying to provide more and more ways for our extended family to get involved, and love you to take a look at some of the options on our church app. So follow those directions. Also, you can follow these directions at the bottom of the screen for a text prompt. Just another way of getting involved that you can do via texting one of those keywords to the number on your screen. Just let us know how we can help you get connected, get involved, grow in your faith, and we would love to be able to do that. So thanks for that. Also, two quick things about social media today. First, every week we check in on our Surprise Church Bismarck Facebook page for charity. This month, today is our last day, or this weekend is our last weekend to be able to check in for Haiti students, underprivileged kids in Haiti. We're helping them get school days paid for. And so every 30 check-ins provides a day of school for a classroom. Every 10 check-ins provides a day of school for 30 kids. So that's like a whole classroom for a day, or one kid for 30 months. Do the math how you want. We're partnering with Hope for Haiti to do that, along with thousands of other sister churches, which means that you are part of a big group of people checking in on Facebook this month and sending a ton of money to great causes in Haiti. So thanks for your help checking in and doing good on Surprise Church Bismarck's Facebook page. If you want to use the hashtag Hope for Haiti, go ahead and do that. And while you're on Facebook, you can search for our Surprise Social Media Influencers page, or just text this text prompt. What we're doing is we're gathering a team of people that are sort of going to be our front lines of social media influencers. And when I say that, it's something where we can just post something on our Surprise Church Bismarck Facebook page, and we're planning to post a lot of helpful content, not just advertisement of our programs, but helpful stuff for families and for people to grow in their life and their faith. And that means that if we have people out there that are ready to share that content, that are getting involved in different Facebook groups and communities on Facebook or social media, and they can share that in those communities, our reach just gets a whole lot broader. So text influence if you want to be a social media influencer at Surprise. Again, wherever you are, just text influence to that number, and you'll get an immediate response with some steps that you can take and some directions you can follow to join that team. This next slide shows what we call volunteers at Surprise. Surprisers is what we call them. We have teams of volunteers that serve every week at Surprise, and they do things on Sunday morning and beyond Sunday morning, and we'd love to add you to that team. So go ahead and text the word serve to that number, and we're not just going to plug you into a responsibility, either a digital or an in-person responsibility. We're going to send you a survey, a quick survey that you can take to help us better get to know you and how you're hardwired, so that we can find a responsibility or a team that lines up with something you love to do and that you're good at and that you're passionate about. And you can be one of our surprisers. You can't take people who don't like to do a certain thing, and they're not going to surprise anybody. It's going to kind of wear them out. But if we find something that lines up with how God hardwired you, with people that you love to work with, that's a win for everybody. And if you're around on the weekends, on every first Sunday of the month, we have a badge presentation. All of our new volunteers get a photo ID security badge, so that no one has any doubt who has been trained and certified to serve at Surprise. And if you're a new volunteer, or if you're a volunteer who hasn't got one yet, we'd love for you to check in with us to make sure you can have your badge ready. So talk to your team leader if you're a volunteer, or text this number to get started on that journey, and we can have a big celebration and commission you for service on February 7th. Check out this video right now, which introduces our Love Letters series. We're in our second installment today, so check this video out, and then we'll dive in.
Some of us have had negative experiences with the Bible. Maybe it was used to hurt or condemn us. It may have been presented in a dry, boring way that seemed irrelevant. Or maybe it seemed confusing or even intimidating to read. But what if I told you that it's possible to love reading this book? Because it can make you a more loving person. The truth is that the Bible is God's love letter to humanity, sharing a vision for a better world that we desperately need right now. With a few tips and a little practice, you can unlock the power of God's love in your life. Love to read the Bible so that you can read to love.
Learn how to love to read the Bible, and you will read the Bible in order to be a more loving person. What a cool concept, huh? Instead of seeing the Bible as chores, spiritual chores, it's actually a book that we can learn how to love to read by simply understanding better how to use it. And then it becomes something that makes us change. It makes us more loving. It opens our capacity to serve and love God and to love others like we love ourselves. And so that's really what we're focusing in on this month. Last week, we had a great experience with the concept of soaking in God's Word, how to soak in the Scriptures, how to go inside of the story, to watch Jesus walk on water, raise the dead, heal people, just to be a part of that matter. We gave people practical steps and skills to learn how to step into the story and notice what you see, hear, feel, and just experience on the inside of that story. And a lot of people had a lot of light bulbs going off because they'd never read in the Bible that way. Today, we're going to take another crack at it, and we're going to give you another lens to help you read different parts of Scripture. Before that, though, just a reminder, if you haven't downloaded the YouVersion Bible app, it's a great app for use, and you can search for different reading plans on the app. This month, we're choosing the Bible Matters Because reading plan, so you can search for it. You can invite friends to join you and share the link with your unique reading plan, and then you can chat about the daily readings. It's a great tool. It's a 23-day plan to help you better understand why the Bible still matters and why it matters now more than ever. And it's all part of the YouVersion Bible app. So just wanted to remind you about that. So let's dive in here. I heard a scholar talking about a fish that he had inside a bowl. It was actually a series of fish, not just one fish. But they were swimming around in this little fish bowl. And as they got a little bigger and there was enough fish in there, he just thought it was kind of inhumane to make all these fish just swim in tiny little circles in this little tiny fishbowl. So what he did was he got like one of those, not giant, but big aquariums that has the bubble thing blowing in there and those, fake blue pebbles on the bottom and the little green plant that floats like seaweed, and maybe that little fake pirate ship in the background. You've seen that aquarium, right? So he puts those fish in there, and what happened blew his mind. He said, when I put these fish in there, They immediately located themselves in the bottom of the aquarium, and they started once again swimming in that familiar imaginary fishbowl, even though they had way more space. They had gotten so used to the claustrophobic, tiny space that limited their activity that even when that fishbowl was taken away and they had more space, they didn't even act like it happened. It reminds me of a concept that we see in our lives every day. Let's say that I think most people would say, I'm a believer. I'm a spiritual person. I'm religious. And yet we tend to struggle with some outdated traditions that maybe we just do this because we did it growing up and it's not healthy for us. It's not working for us. Maybe we have some patterns that are indulgent. We do it because it feels good, whether it's eating or over-consuming or chemicals that are not good for us, or lifestyle decisions that are really, really not stabilizing forces in our lives. But we still do it, or occasionally fall back into those old patterns. Destructive behavior. We might continue to allow ourselves to be in an abusive relationship without seeking help. We might allow ourselves to be hurtful and abusive towards others. We might let our temper out of control. We might not manage our anxiety or our depression, and it might just take over our lives. And you're like, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be a God person. I'm supposed to be saved. I'm supposed to be past all that, and I'm still struggling with it. I'm still swimming in this little fishbowl, and I thought I was supposed to not be so constricted, but it's so easy to slide back into those old patterns. Why does that happen? Because I think a lot of people find themselves doubting God or the faith in general when it doesn't just magically fix everything when they go to church, or when they say the Jesus prayer, or when they read their Bible, or say the creed, or say the Lord's Prayer, or say a Hail Mary, whatever the ritual might be. So today we're going to look at a passage of Scripture, and we're going to introduce a new practice for how to read a passage of Scripture that's going to answer this question, but we're going to answer this question by really attending to some words. We're going to answer the question, why do believers revert to past patterns and pain? When we often say, aren't we supposed to be bulletproof? If I'm a good person, if I love Jesus, if I go to church, shouldn't I kind of be bulletproof from maybe things that used to be a part of my life that shouldn't be happening right now? Things I do or that happen to me that I shouldn't have to deal with because Jesus makes me bulletproof? What's going on with those patterns as they continue to make us swim in tiny little circles? And we're going to watch for words as we read. We're going to look for 3 unique kinds of phraseology, wording, that will help you read this and many other passages in the Bible. Just 3 simple concepts that lift up meaning when you read. The 3 things are conditions, purpose clauses, and subjunctive mood. Now you might be like, hold on, push pause, quit right there. This sounds like English class. Not going to study today. Hold on. The Bible, this is a wake-up call. The Bible is literature. The Bible is written words translated into our language. And the only way they translated those is they identified, in the original language, that's a condition, that's a purpose clause, that's a subjunctive mood. And therefore, we translate it into English this way. And so when we understand what's happening in our own language, we have a better understanding of how it was written and why. So these things are actually not just English class homework just to be busy like a crossword puzzle while you're reading the Bible, but it's actually doorways to meaning. So today we're going to find out why we still sometimes swim in the little fishbowl as we watch for words that are conditions, preposition or purpose clauses, and subjunctive moods. This will make sense in a sec. Let's start at Romans chapter 6, verse 1. What shall we say then? Paul is writing to the Christians that live in Rome. What shall we say then? Shall we go on sinning so that grace may abound? Shall we just go on with whatever fishbowl we were swimming in? And since Jesus died, all he does is he drops a little pellet in there that just cleans out our dirty water from time to time. He just basically says, look, I know you're still in that pattern, but I forgive you. Okay? Bonus, right? You're fine. I just make it okay to do whatever is going on. It's kind of like W.H. Auden has a poem in which he says, I like sinning, God likes forgiving. Really, the world is admirably arranged. That really sums up Romans 6 very well. Paul is using a Socratic method. Paul was a philosopher, and so his Socratic method of questioning to answer and teach. Should we keep sinning? Should we just go on with whatever's happening in our lives, swimming in our little fishbowl pattern, so that Jesus just has more to forgive? Aren't I doing him a favor if I just sin more because he has more to forgive? Shouldn't I just keep swimming because that's what he died to forgive? Well, let's dig into that. And the first thing we're going to notice is our first purpose clause. Now, a purpose clause, here's a clue for a purpose clause. You see something written, something that happens, and then it says, so that, or in order that. The word that usually is a catch, that this happens in order that this could happen. And it reveals why God does something. So it's, if you read that Jesus died, and then it says in order that, that's a big deal because you know the why behind what he did. So let's check this out. Let's see our purpose clause. Paul says, by no means. The point is not to just keep on sinning that Jesus would just have a lot to forgive. And here's why. He says, we are those who have died to sin. How can we live in it any longer? Or don't you know that all of us who were baptized into Christ Jesus were baptized into his death? We were therefore buried with him through baptism into death, in order that, boom, there it is. I boxed it out here just to show you that there is our purpose clause. We were baptized into Jesus' death. God drew a line from the cross of Jesus Christ to our foreheads when we were baptized, when we were brought into the faith family. He drew that line in order that. He's got a reason for it. So that's more than just saying, hey, wear a pin on your shirt that says I'm a Christian. Wear a cross necklace. Go to church and say I'm a cultural Christian. In order that, just as Christ was raised from the dead, through the glory of God the Father, we too may live a new life. Here's a little picture. We were buried. There's your coffin. We were buried with Jesus in baptism. I would prefer that, right? I would rather have his death count as mine, the one that God would punish me and push me out of his family forever because I've chosen sinful patterns instead of God-like patterns. I would rather Jesus die for me. And that's what he did. So instead, he just puts water on us and says, I'm going to claim you as you claim me as your Savior. I'm claiming you and connecting that death for you. So you're now buried with him into his death. And you're raised with Jesus. When he raised from the dead, you're actually raised with him so that in order that you might live a new life with Jesus. So you have a long story. Your life story doesn't start with your birth. Your life story starts with Jesus' death and resurrection that you were connected to when you were brought into God's family. And the whole point of all that was that God wants you to live a new life. He wants you to swim in the full aquarium of his life, not in the tiny fishbowl that he died to save you from, right? All right, let's take another look here. The two other words that we're going to be watching for as we finish this passage are conditions and what's called the subjunctive mood. A condition is very simple. One act or one truth causes another. If this, then this. If you ever say that again, then I am going to punish you. If you work, I will pay you. There's a condition that's based upon a precedent, right? If it's true that you really love me, then will you marry me, right? So they can be good, they can be bad, whatever. If this, then that. That's a condition. Subjunctive mood often goes along with the condition. It's an expression of a wish or a demand that changes how the verb sounds a little bit. And so it can be an expression of a wish, demand, or suggestion. And you oftentimes see the words like, that you may or should or might. It's kind of looking at a future that ideally would exist, or I'd suggest to exist. And it's a little different in English than in some languages where it's easy to recognize. But we recognize it in the next paragraph that we're going to look at. Conditions, if then this, then that. Subjunctive mood is an expression of a wish in the future. Let's take a look. For Paul goes on, for if, there's your condition, right? If we have been united with Jesus in a death like his, you could insert then here, then we will certainly be united with him in a resurrection like his. If we died with him and he raised, we're going to raise with him. If then. So Jesus didn't just die for me. He raised with me. I'm connected to him in death and in his resurrection. That resurrection is meant to play out in my life. If then. Now he goes on. For we know that our old self was crucified with him, so that, there's your purpose clause, that we were crucified with Jesus so that the body ruled by sin, subjunctive, might be done away with. That, another purpose, we should, subjunctive, no longer be slaves to sin. Because anyone who has died has been set free from sin. So because of that condition, if Jesus died and he rose, so will we. We're going to live a new life with him. And then he says the whole point of this all is so that sin might be beaten up in our lives, that we should no longer be slaves to it. There's a purpose to that condition that leads to us living a new life, that we would be free, that the subjunctive just kind of casts God's vision. Like I dream, like Martin Luther King, I'd have a dream that you should live a new life, God says, and not be stuck in this miniature, dirty version of a fishbowl you keep finding yourself swimming around in. It's beautiful words when you really listen to them. Here's a picture of them. If we're united with Jesus, then we're united with his resurrection. Not just his death, but his resurrection. So that we could lead a new life. Or on the bottom, there's kind of the second wave of logic. He says, the old self was crucified with Jesus so that we would be set free from sin, so that we might no longer be slaves to sin. Those subjunctive words are so telling. This is what God's dream is for us, that we may live a new life, that we should no longer be slaves, that we might be free in Jesus. That's the whole point of this. And this passage is using these words to paint a picture of what God wants for us and what he saved us from. So let's read on here a little bit more. Now, if we died with Christ, condition, right? Then, you can insert then when you see that there's actually a condition being spoken. Then we believe that we will also live with him. He's kind of restating what he's already said. For we know that since Christ was raised from the dead, he cannot die again. Death no longer has mastery over him. The death he died to sin once for all. But the life he lives to God. He goes on in the same way. Count yourselves dead to sin, but alive to God in Christ Jesus. You've been united with him. He says, so I want you to see yourself in his death and in his resurrection. And here's his application. Therefore means I'm going to apply this now. Do not let sin reign in your mortal body, your physical body, so that you obey its evil desires. Do not offer any part of yourself to sin as an instrument of wickedness, but rather offer yourselves to God as those who have been brought from death to life, and offer every part of yourself to him as an instrument of righteousness. For sin shall no longer be your master, because you are not under the law, but under grace. What this last few verses is really getting at here is the final principle I want to lift up for you as far as how you read the Bible. And that's the principle of identity. Identity leads to behavior. You might have this spoken sense of, I am a believer, I am a Christian. But is it what you really fundamentally believe about yourself? Because if you still find yourself swimming in that fishbowl, whatever that fishbowl looks like for you, it's oftentimes because we forget about who we are in Christ. So Paul is spending these verses closing in this passage to remind us of our true identity so that we can reclaim it. So look at this visual here. Reclaim your identity, and here's what he's trying to help us do. We are dead to sin like Jesus. He died to sin and we died to sin. We are now alive to God in Jesus. We're brought from death to life, and we're not under the law anymore. We're not just defined by whether we behave or whether we don't. We're forgiven. And so we're under his grace. His grace and his love are our motivating force now, not just the shoulds and should nots of the law. And all of that happened. We were given that identity for a reason, that it would express itself in how we live. And so we can realign our behavior back to that identity. So Paul is saying, don't re-enslave yourself to sin. Heck, you were crucified with Jesus to save you from that evil master. Why in the world would you go back and volunteer yourself to be a slave again, like an animal, doing whatever you feel, even if it's bad for you and bad for others? And then he says, the other way to realign is to offer yourselves to God, like a tool in his hands, not to your evil desires. You don't have to obey those desires. You don't have that master anymore. You have a new master. And so offer yourselves every day. God, I'm here to serve you. What do you want from me? Because you are not my new master. You brought me from death to life in Jesus. I'm not under the law. I'm under grace. So let's think about this. What if you look at your life and you're in a fishbowl like this Bernie right here? I couldn't resist. I had to put Bernie in here somewhere. I know it's kind of getting late in the game. I know everybody else is doing Bernie, but I found a place for him in today's sermon. What if you're living in a fishbowl of your old behavior and you're struggling with addiction, and you thought you would have beat this by now because you believe in Jesus, or you went to church, or you prayed, and you're still struggling with this? Or what if you're still wrestling with the desire and this desperate need to please people? You're so afraid of disappointing your boss, your spouse, your kids, your friends. What if you're just using people? You don't even think about people as human beings, but people that you only reach out to them if you need something, and your friends are starting to get sick of it. It's hard for you to look at people as people that are worthy of love and respect, probably because you don't feel worthy of love and respect. Or what if you just feel self-absorbed? What if your life, and COVID gave us lots of good downtime, no, don't get me wrong, but I think COVID and this just close your doors, stay safe, stay home, don't let anybody into your life, don't infect anybody. I think the downside of that is it has really shrunk our universes down to the very self-absorbed level. I can say I'm just doing this because I want to not make people sick, and that's good. However, have you found yourself more or less selfish than you were a year ago? Are you more or less focused on yourself than you were a year ago? Has this time been good for you to really open yourself up to the life of God? Or have you found yourself swimming in that circle again of, this is really all about me and what I want, and protecting and controlling my environments, and I'm just focused on myself and what I want. I'm not even open to God's bigger vision for my life. Any of those things happening in your life are a clue that we need to go backwards again and reclaim our old identity. And once again, that old identity says that we're dead to sin like Jesus. We're alive to God in Jesus. We're brought from death to life, and we're under grace. So instead of those 4 things that we had out of alignment, we can live in sobriety. I want to have clear mind so I can know and serve God. I want to please God and not people. I know who I am. I want to offer myself as an instrument of righteousness. I want to love people, not use people. And I want to be a servant leadership type person. I want to serve and I give my life as a sacrifice to God's love and not focus so much on myself. I want to get past myself. I want to forget about myself so I can lose myself in service to God and others. Watch for words so that you can love better. Because if you have someone in your life that's really spoken kindly to you and you just ignore it, sad things are going to happen. You're not going to hear those words, and it's not going to change you. These words are written to change you. Watch them. Listen to them. Look for those special statements that are so true that if you truly took them in, you would reclaim your identity and realign your behavior. And that's what I hope today has helped you to do. So in closing, I want to just say a brief word of prayer that God would help you to realign around His Word today. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you that it's possible to love to read your Word. Help us to do so. Teach us how to soak in your Word like we learned last week, and help us to really watch attentively and listen for words. Teach us how to lean into your words, whether we're alone or with others, so that we could truly read those words to be more loving. Thank you, Father, that you are so good and kind. We love you, we praise you, and we ask you this week to play out that love in us expressing our new identity as people who have died with Jesus and now raised to new life in Jesus. And all God's people said, amen. We'll see you guys next week. God bless you.